What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Tyler S. Clark, and welcome to today's edition of the Dream Firm Leader Interview Series. I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce to you an unbelievable pair. So let me go ahead and get right into that. Introducing to you the mother-daughter duo that's clarifying how high-value employees can leverage equity compensation to their benefit through proactive tax planning and strategic financial coaching. An infinite source of inspiration to entrepreneurial families everywhere, defenders of freedom, warriors for women everywhere, and two of the kindest souls you will ever come across. It is one of the greatest joys of my life to introduce to you Dream Firm leaders, Randy, Joseph, and Deva Hetrick. Welcome. How are you both doing today?
Oh, really
doing great. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So look, we're going to jump right into it here. Again, appreciate you guys taking time out of the busyness of tax season. And I'm going to just swing it to Randy first here, because Randy, I want you to just give us an idea of really when you got started with your firm. Just give us an understanding, kind of the landscape of where it was when you got started.
Okay. This firm that I'm in right now, or do you want my whole life story from the beginning?
Why don't we start with the end of the previous chapter before you started the newer one?
Okay, great. So I sold my practice that I had developed, for decades, and I was going to be a little early retired, and do some art and, all the ordinary pleasures of life. And then Deva came to us one day and said, my father-in-law says you should teach me tax and that you would devote the rest of your life to me. And I said, that's right. And so I'm so entrepreneurial that I didn't really know how to teach her tax except to start another business and have us both be in it. So that's what I did. And then I taught Deva through our business, and eventually we became 50-50 partners a couple years ago. And so she's just zoomed up, in her knowledge and her understanding of everything. And that's the story. We constructed this little business in a very different way than my other business, because it was small. It was just the two of us until recently. We have a hire now, but and we did work together. But then Deva, went and got married, and she married an island boy in a remote island, and she's living there now, and I'm in Seattle. So we work out of our homes, although Deva, we have an office on Friday Harbor. So it's kind of a very contemporary business, very digital, very virtual. That's the story.
Super cool. And thank you for sharing. So just to clarify, we had a successful career in a different firm. Really, we're in a place where we had financial independence. And reflecting on that, we said, wait a minute, there might be another opportunity here with Deva, maybe a little bit of a trap sprung by your husband, planting the seed into her mind. You should ask your mother to help you with this. And then in the not so distant future, fast forward, you're now even partners. I'd like to maybe swing it to Deva to discuss the hostile corporate takeover that got her mother to agree to a 50-50 partnership. Now, honestly, what was it like being able to come to the understanding that this was going to be a joint partnership, as opposed to what I think a lot of family-run businesses are, where it's still very much top down, as opposed to a shared responsibility? What was the beginning of that like, the discussions, and what do you believe the benefits have been?
Well, my mom is an overgiver, like Tyler. So when we started out, the percentage she was giving me, it always felt too high to me. Even today, I'm constantly fighting to make sure that I'm worth 50%. I finally feel that way this year, with all the changes that we've been making, that I've been able to lead and teach her a little bit. But I've always kind of felt like I'm making sure that I'm worth it, and she's always making sure that she's worth it. And it's just really cool. It felt very natural for us to come to this point of teammates. And still sometimes when I know she's working really late and I'm home with my son or something, I'm like, oof, like, I better step it up tomorrow and match her. So we're looking out for each other in that way.
It's fantastic. And I think that's a great lesson that everyone who's considering including their children in their entrepreneurial journeys is that the willingness to give, but also having a child who appreciates the willingness to give and wants to be worthy of that gift is such an important thing that I think a lot of people struggle with. So I'm not surprised to hear that those two things are very closely aligned between the two of you. That's fantastic. So let's just kind of change gears a little bit here, because you guys have a very interesting specialty, and I indicated a little bit of it when I introduced to you. But tell us a little bit more about your work experience, the type of clients you work with, and really the services that you provide to them. And Deva, why don't you kick it off? And then Randy, if you felt there's anything to add to it, we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we did a little bit fall into our niche based on location. Even though we work remotely, most of our clients are in the Seattle area because that's where my mom is and where I lived as well when we started. And Seattle, as everyone knows, has a bunch of big tech stuff going on, specifically Amazon, Microsoft, and then there's a lot of startups. And so we had a lot of young people who were new to Seattle, so they needed to hire maybe their first advisor, multi-state tax return, moving, maybe buying a home. And then these companies they work for are giving them equity compensation, and that comes in many different forms: stock awards, stock options. There's not only confusion on how to file their tax return, but how to strategize with these options. And so I didn't know a ton about it when I started, but my mom maybe can tell you that she's kind of been around since stock options got popular 30 years ago.
Right. So in the early 90s, I had my business, and one of my mentors was a financial investment advisor, and he brought me a client, and he put the papers down on my desk, and he said, okay, this person has incentive stock options. And I said, well, you need to send them somewhere else because I don't know about those at all. And he said, you're going to learn. And he was my mentor, and I went, okay. And I just remember that day, and I can actually relate to clients that come to us who don't understand the complexities of these options, because I remember feeling that way, as a CPA, as a young CPA, and just looking at all of this. But I learned, and then that really was an amazing thing for me, because it's the foundation upon which I built, future clients. And then for a while, especially the incentive stock options went out of fashion, but now they're back, with a vengeance, with the startups in particular. And I just built knowledge upon knowledge. And it's interesting because both Deva and I really like to learn. So that's been like an important part of the way that I kind of build my business, going from one thing to another. I'm always afraid of taking something like way outside of my knowledge, and not everyone is like that. They'll take anything, but I do like to next step. I like to learn the next step. And even now that we've been doing this amazing marketing that Deva has set up through your program, Tyler, and we're getting all of these, it's like incentive stock option clients just crawling out of the woodwork, really. And they're coming to me now with things that I've never encountered before. And it's made me really nervous, but I've reached out to other people, and I'm learning, and I'm feeling excited about it.
Fantastic answer. So basically, Randy had a mentor drop. What was that word you used? Paper. Drops.
Right.
I'm not sure what that is, but something that I think transfers knowledge onto your desk. And by extension of being willing to embrace that, having that desire to learn, well, I think you passed that desire to learn onto Deva. It fostered that really curiosity about life and meaningful things. And now you're proverbially passing the torch of knowledge to Deva, because, she says, I don't know everything yet. And I certainly don't know everything about marketing. And you even right now, Randy, you're just like, I don't know everything about stock option compensation and how to handle it, but I have access to the resources that allow me to continue to explore and level up my knowledge, which is exactly what I want everyone to be able to pull from is like, you don't need to know everything right now, but you already have such a huge advantage compared to the next person. And even if you don't have that little bit more, you have the resources to be able to go and find out and figure it out. So fantastic response. And that's absolutely amazing. I want to take just a quick second with something you had shared with me privately that I know is something you're both very proud of, and something you gave me the okay to share with in a more public setting. And I'll address this question first to Randy. Value is a word that comes up a lot right now. I literally just had someone use the word value 3 times in like a span of like 9 words in a single sentence. And I was like, man, there's something to be said, right? And there's something to be said that a lot of people are really struggling with understanding and being able to express their value, but it's a word that's getting used a lot, and they struggle with having it being recognized the right way. Now, more specifically, Randy, you shared with me the struggles you and other women go through with this in particular, that being recognition of your own value and how you believe, rightfully so, that many other women are struggling with this right now. So can you share a little bit about how you overcame that and are constantly overcoming that even right now?
Yeah, I think that, when I started figuring out a long time ago how I wanted to proceed in this profession, I actually felt that it would be really difficult for me to be in a big firm that was male dominated, and that it's a worthy struggle. And the women that do it were heroes back then and even now. But I felt that I didn't have what it took to really fight that fight. And it's one of the reasons why I started my own practice. And I think that that's not an unusual path for people in different kinds of demographics, or where they feel like they're going to struggle with the kind of the dominant society, whatever it is. It's a common path to start your own business, so that in some sense some of that struggle can be set aside. And I, in my own business, I've always been a person that reached out to other people to have as mentors, so both men and women. And I just built it from there. And although I didn't perceive any direct, I didn't ever have clients like hang up the phone on me and say, "You're a woman, forget it."
I hope not.
No, but often, because my name is androgynous, people would think that I was a boy, when they called. And so there'd be like, "Oh, I thought you were a boy," and but then, or a man, and then they would go on. So I think my main thing was to have my own business and, sort of try, as most as I can, avoid that fight and concentrate, on me and my practice and my staff.
Fantastic response. And entrepreneurship is very much a path many people take towards empowerment. And
Right.
I thank you for sharing that. And I want to bring Devin in on the same conversation, because there's an expression that I hear and largely agree with, which is different generation, same struggle. And Devin, I'm curious to know, even with what you've gone through with your mother being able to really blaze a path in a male dominated field and be successful in it, how you feel that's impacted you, and simultaneously, what are some of the struggles that you believe you're experiencing in the same kind of light, excuse me.
Yeah, I think gender is one thing. And then similarly, I just had a very alternative path, and I grew up with alternative roots and values, not corporate, and I just wouldn't fit into that setting. And so I, part of me, even to this interview today, wanted to wear a hooded sweatshirt or have my tattoos showing, but I chose not to for some.
Wearing a t-shirt.
I know, I'm jealous. But So I think being my own, the owner or co-owner of a business is so important. And I'm still learning that I can be myself and that I actually will like my clients better if they see who I am when we first meet, because then the people that are too stuffy for me are gonna just not hire us, and like that's great. I almost forget what the question was. No, I remember. With the male dominated thing, I've always been I am a little different than my mom. I've actually always been kind of drawn towards being the minority, especially gender wise. When I was young, I grew up playing competitive chess. Very, very male dominated from a young age. One of the only girls in hundreds of, people playing chess. And then I ended up playing competitive poker, and that's like less than 10% female probably on average. And I'm just really drawn to that. And I think I like the attention of that, and to stand out and to kind of show people like, no, like we can be tough too. And so I don't know. But in the same breath, like I'm still surprised sometimes when men higher up in their companies hire us. I mean, like a little bit, I'm like, it's just interesting to me. I'm glad that the world is going the way it is, at least in Seattle.
I have a super funny story about Deborah when she was little that just dovetails into what she's saying.
I can quash this if you prefer, Deva. It's up to you. I can put her on mute. No? Okay. You're all right. See, that's the bond, right? Right there. It's perfectly summarized. Please, Randy.
Okay. We were at this big, gigantic, like family conference when she was 4, and there were kids, and she was running around, and she had some kind of like a sword in her hand or something. And she was running with boys, and she was yelling, I'm a boy, I'm a boy. And I turned to my friend and I said, she's not happy with herself. And my friend said, does she seem unhappy? I said, no. So anyway, I have a million Deva stories, but I'll hold it to just one right now.
That's adorable and awesome. Thank you for sharing. And it's clear that she's very happy with who she's become with your guidance, and also letting her be herself. A lot of people would look at chess or poker and they try to dissuade that. And I don't get the sense that that's something you remotely did, Randy. You were probably like, here's your first deck of playing cards, right? Like, let's go have some fun.
No. It was a real struggle in the beginning for me. It was a serious struggle, but I grew and changed, and, I'm a different person now about that. Yeah.
I have 2 things I'd like to pull from both of your responses. The first of which being, Deva recognizing that like who she is as a person is more of a magnet and also a detractor of a magnet for the type of clients that you do want when you're willing to be yourself and show that in a more public setting. And 2, it's also a detractor. It also pushes away. It's a filter for the, to use Deva's term, the more stuffy type of person that doesn't really necessarily meet what you guys are looking for your dream client mix, which I think is such an important thing that a lot of people, they try and create this like corporate facade where it's just like, it's like faceless and lifeless. And I say, no, like you are your business. You have to be willing to share what you do. And I remember when I shared this with Deva, she was kind of like, well, I kind of have like these like college photos and like these things that I share. I'm like, but that's you. Like, we don't want to like hide from that. We want to embrace that. And I think it led to some pretty cool moments and breakthroughs for Deva on her financial coaching side, and a couple of other just interesting points. And I can't remember the other point I wanted to make with Randy, but I know it will come back to me. So let's go ahead and just keep the interview rolling here. So I want to talk a little bit about what your life was like before working with dream firms. And now my answer has come back, or the thing I wanted to pull from Randy, which was there is a happy medium between disruption and things we're uncomfortable with, whether it's having a powerful woman in a male dominated field, or whether it's passing your genes and that willingness to go out and be a trailblazer and seeing your daughter do it in different fields. Like, there's a happy medium between disruption and comfort and growth. And that balance that you two have really been able to establish is all inspiring. I mean that, like, it's fascinating working with you and seeing the differences. And I want to go back to the beginning of before we started working with each other, and really what your life was like at that time, and specifically what I believe you came looking to accomplish when you decided to work with Dream Firm. So Randy, why don't you take it from there? Because I think it's an interesting perspective, interesting from your perspective, and interesting from your perspective.
Okay, well, I think one of the things that Deb and I had been talking about, so we were about 6 years in together a year ago, was developing, so how can we grow? How can we hire someone else? We were tossing that around. And what would, how are we going to be able to grow? We don't want to be gigantic, but we want to grow a little bit more. And we were just kind of going in circles and just, like that, not knowing what. And then, but we had our business set up. We felt it was nice. We liked our softwares and all of that seemed like pretty smooth. But how to grow, that was the big question. And how to also have Deba grow into more of a leadership position in terms of running the business. So we were close to equals in terms of working with clients, but there was a lot she needed to step up to and to learn. And so that was all whirling around in our brains. And then because I often have my foot on the brakes in terms of number of new clients we take, we finished a few days early last tax season. And Deba said, well, why don't we do some continuing education? So she was rooting around and she saw your CPA Academy on like introvert, how to crush it while being an introvert. And she said, well, let's do this, and then it's been this amazing roller coaster ever since then. So then through that and then we took each step with you, and Deba took the lead on that. So it like revolutionized our practice and in so many ways. Every once in a while, Deba says, we wouldn't be doing any of this if it weren't for Tyler. It's true. Yeah. So I'm not sure I answered your question, but
you definitely did. And I'll pull a point out of that to bring to Deba, which was, there was an emphasis, and I remember this very clearly from our conversations. Yes, emphasis on growth, of course, but the reason why we wanted to grow was to really provide the system so that as Deba continued to take over the practice in a hostile way, no, obviously I'm joking, as she continued to adopt more responsibility, then we wanted to make sure that she was empowered to do that, that she had the tools that she needed to be able to say, okay, if Randy were not here, or Randy were to go and paint more, this is going to be a safe entity and protect me in the future from Deba's perspective. So Deb, I want to just, again, kind of make sure that that's closely aligned with how you understood it at the time, and maybe also talk about specifically what Randy said with the transformation you guys have gone through and continue to go through to bring that closer to fruition.
I'm just so happy right now that everything we've done, the improvements in our business through Dream Firms. Like, I was doing a lot of admin. I was managing a lot of software stuff, piecing together all of our different tools. Literally cut me off if I'm not answering your question. I just I forget what you said, but even whatever, 10, 15, 20 hours a week of just setting up new stuff for clients, answering really simple questions. And getting ready for tax season was a lot of like different 20, 30-hour projects. Oh, we need to send out these or do this. And having someone to do that with us, we hired someone this last fall. It's really, I think it's the main thing that's allowed me to step up as a leader. I prioritize learning. Like I've been spending, hours every week learning some of the stuff that she knows that we always were just like, will teach me someday. And working very directly with clients, giving them guidance for the first time, which was like, I was so scared of just a few months ago. And now I feel like I can kind of answer questions just like off that, my confidence is just like skyrocketing, I think, because of the time that I'm able to take to dedicate towards the learning and the strategy instead of all the admin stuff. And it's kind of hard to let go of for like a few weeks, and then it's just gone. And I just like don't ever want to see it again. But I don't know what you asked. That's just
it was largely about the transition between from where you guys were before you started and ultimately where you are now. And again, I'll swing it back to that word empowerment of really going from the doer of the firm. And that was the role at the time. And it's an important role. I try never to like downplay that, but you were doing administrative tasks that were repeatable and predictable, but you were the one doing it. So we really had no leverage. And being able to just look at that and see it for what it is and say that if Deva is going to be the owner of this firm, well, she needs to be able to extract herself from this minutia, which a lot of owners need to be able to do, so that she can learn a higher skill set and focus on more strategic objectives. And you've been able to do that. Yes, it takes time. But again, that was the purpose of us working together in the first place, from my understanding.
And I now, like, I still am doing a lot of stuff that I could pass off, to our current employee or to another employee. But the difference is that I'm hyper aware of it now that I'm in your program. Every time I'm doing something that I know I could easily teach someone else to do, I'm like, it's like ringing in my ears. I'm like, oh, like if I pass this off, we could have room to help these more people. And so it's really, it's a level of awareness that I didn't have. And I used to kind of not kid myself. What I'm going to say is that I enjoy doing simple, basic tasks. Sometimes it's calming, it's meditative. And so I think that's what I told myself for years. Well, I like doing all the data entry because it's easy and it gives me a break, but I don't really like it. And I would rather actually go meditate or take a walk than data entry. So, yeah.
Right. That's so true. And one of the big things for me that's different now since I've been in your program is the way that I give quotes to clients. And Tyler, how I resisted this. Like you taught us to do the interview on Zoom and give the quote on Zoom, like face to face, and that was not my pattern. Even if I was generally on the phone or on email, I would think about it and then give them the quote on email later. And I really resisted that, mostly out of fear. I don't like to hear that pause where I know they're thinking, and all of that. Anyway, I worked on it. I just, did it a bunch of times until now it's nothing to me. Now I just look them in the face and say, it's going to be $5,000, or 10,000 or 1,000, whatever it is. And I'm so comfortable with that now. And I just feel it's made a big difference. And also, one of the things that you suggested is that you have a video of yourself doing the interview with the client so you can look at it and see. And we haven't actually done that, but Deba joined me on a couple of these interviews, and she was able to give me feedback about this funny thing I was doing apparently when I was giving the quote. And and that really, really, really helped me.
I feel like I need like a bell or like a gong or something for every time there's like a really epic proactive moment, just like bong, like, because the way Deva's mindset had shifted from like, okay, it's okay for me to do this, to like, wait a minute, I am now having alarm bells going off. Like, it's fine that I'm doing this right now because it's part of my responsibilities, but I'm already saying, wait a minute, it would be easy to create delegation for this particular system or this process. And then when my time back, go meditate or go do something I'd rather do or focus on a higher level activity. And that's absolutely awesome. And similarly with Randy, nothing is going to be easy that I'm going to be asking you guys to do. Like, change is not easy. Anyone who tells you that is a liar. but it is worth doing, and having the support to help you move forward with it and experience the benefits of it sooner is critical. And she got that support from Deva and myself to be like, look, we understand that this is new. Anything that's new is going to be hard at first, but I still remember the Voxers that I got talking about some of the fear. And I was like, it's okay, just try it, see what happens. She did a Zoom, but she didn't give the quote. She got one step further. Then she did another Zoom and she felt more comfortable to give the quote. Then she did a Zoom where Deva was able to critique and watch what she was doing. And it's building on itself. It keeps, and then I think it was like 3 or 4 in. She's like, Tyler, this feels like as right as rain, or it's very natural now to me. And all that fear before, it wasn't really even all that warranted.
Right.
But it's because proactive about implementing meaningful solutions. And again, I just want to compliment both of you guys. That's absolutely fantastic. I want to talk about getting started with us, because we actually had conversations about you joining the program, and it was months before you went through. And just to be clear, no high pressure sales tactics. We don't practice that. We want to make sure that, yes, you take action, but it was a little while before you ultimately decided to join. But I wanted to discuss getting started specifically, because I feel like a lot of people, what is it like on the inside? Just maybe pull the veil back a little bit and share what your experience was like getting started with us.
Yeah, can I answer that?
Please.
I think that from the first time we watched your first webinar, we knew we really wanted to do your program. We knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. It was a financial question for us a little bit, because we're a smaller, our firm, I think our total revenue probably compared to some of the other folks in dream firms is lower. So the investment in Tyler's program was, something we needed to consider, but still we already knew it's fine. We want to do it. But I think your level of hype, your level of let's go, was just a little bit intimidating. Except for also that was the reason I wanted to do it. If you know it.
Right.
So
I got you.
My life, I have a young child. I have things going on. It's COVID. Everything has felt so weird this last year. But so I was like, I don't know if I can match this guy's level of hype yet. Maybe I need to kind of warm up for a few months. And then, you poke back in and checked in with us and stuff. And as soon as we started, the very first week, we were just so happy. I think because the biggest part that I don't know if people know about is just the friends we've made in this program. The weekly meetings, just hearing everyone's successes and struggles it's really wonderful how vulnerable people in our group are. And I don't have, I live in a small town in a remote place. None of my friends are in this industry. And just fostering those relationships has been so meaningful. And I don't care how busy we are with tax season. I'm so happy that we get to do these weekly 1.5 hour calls. It's amazing. So we've been so happy ever since. Only a little bit worried, could we dedicate more time to this? That's the only thing. Yeah, go ahead, Mom.
I think that there was also, you said because of COVID and everything, there was childcare issues, and being able to allocate the time to do the program properly. And that was confusing and caused some of the delay. But then we made the decision and never looked back.
Right. That's what you always say, Mom, about just do something. When you think but I can't quite do that. I know I'm not going to be dedicating enough time to dream firms as I want to, but it's with exercise or eating healthier. It's just do something, just start. And it's a long program, and the program is really functional even once you're done with it, because you have all the content. So
Awesome. And yes, I completely agree with just do something. And also, what's the priority right now? And needless to say, at the time, childcare, making sure everyone's safe, COVID, those are huge priorities that are going to need to take away from your willingness and desire to be able to meet or match my intensity and grow your firm. And I get that. And again, that's patience from us. That's patience from you, but also knowing that this is on the horizon. This is something I'm going to be able to prioritize in the not so distant future, because I want the associated results, even if it's just being able to prioritize 90 minutes on a Wednesday and 60 minutes here on a Thursday, and being able to just like give a little bit every day and make sure it has its appropriate place and time. I completely agree. And it's funny, every time we ask someone like, what's it like to get started? Every single person goes, the group calls and the community that's fostered from like-minded professionals. And yes, the vulnerability, the problems, it's not only just, I say sunshine, rainbows, and puppy dogs. There are huge wins, right? I mean, we were able to talk about your best sales week ever, I think on the last call or the call before that. And I'd like to talk just a little bit about that in a minute, but it's also the problems of team members not participating or being at the level they need to, or needing to hire, or needing to fire, needing to raise prices, or struggle with being able to get onto Zoom and do your first sales role. Like, these are all problems. But the thing is like, you're not alone. You have me, but you also have other colleagues and peers who are solving similar, if not identical problems. And I think it just, it gives a support mechanism that's almost impossible to replicate outside of it. So that's absolutely awesome to hear from both of you. I want to talk a little bit about that sales week that you guys just experienced. And I'm not here to push for numbers, because I know that those things can be personal, but what do you think really led to that best sales week ever? What were the tangible things that were put in place that led to the number of new leads, and also the ability to close at a higher rate? And I want you to talk a little bit about your pricing structure, if you're willing to, just because I know a lot of people, when they hear like that multi-$1,000 tax returns, or even $1,000 for a tax return, they hear that and they go, how is that? They just literally go like, how is that possible? So why don't we actually start with that side of it, the psychology of the importance of your market and how you've positioned yourself, and then we'll move into the actual tactical implementation of some of the marketing and sales techniques you guys have deployed.
Okay, so I always thought that I was a pretty good pricer, certainly better than most of my friends, in the business. But through the program, I came to realize that we were really underpricing, and we worked on what you call a values ladder. So we worked on pricing through the program and having maybe different packages. And so that increased our awareness of what we were really giving, and that what part of our frustration was that we are overgivers, and I like that about us, but we need to be paid for that, So we worked out that pricing structure so that I have it in front of me. In other words, I have it on an index card right up here, and so that we were able to, when we put the marketing in place that we learned through your program, and I'll talk about that in a minute too, I had the pricing already in my mind of what I wanted. So I'm not making things up as I go along. I mean, maybe a teeny bit while I'm talking to the client, because there's variations, but I have the basic idea in mind. And so for example, we do a lot of work with employees who have restricted stock units, which are the easiest kind of equity compensation for us, but it's confusing to the employees, and to the clients. And so there's value there in our being able to explain how it goes. And so we went from really maybe, I don't know, Deva, 700.
I think, well, a couple of years ago, we were pricing people with these RSUs at like 500 or 600.
I know, right? Yeah. So anyway, now it's basic. I mean, sometimes if it's so simple, like they don't even have a house or they don't have any investments, but basically I'm pricing those in the $1,000 to $1,200 range with the RSUs. And then, but with the stock options, and especially incentive stock options, it's up from there. And we are, I haven't isolated in the last 2 weeks our conversion rate on those particular clients, but I think it is hovering around the 30 to 40%. And that, before your program, that would have been unacceptable to me, that I hadn't converted a higher percentage. But now I learned through you that that's where you want to be, because if you're converting higher than that, you're not pricing high enough. And that is making me really happy, because every person in your life is a project, right? And the more clients you have, the more projects. So if I can make the same amount of money with less people projects in my life, you know, making noise during tax season, the happier I am. So then the other thing I want to say about the value ladder is we have this next, the mid range, which was a lot more value for the stock option clients. And it's going to be like $3,000 to $4,000. And I got my first one a couple of days ago of that. And I was like, so excited. Like that never would have happened. So, and of course I am gonna, you know, I'll like go wash their kitchen floor if that's what they want me to do. But, you know, I'm very happy.
Wow. Dev, anything to add to that response?
Yeah, just to kind of expand on what she said about how we learned to know what we're giving and to express that to the client because of Tyler's exercise. Tell me everything you're doing for these basic 1040 people, because it's not actually that basic. Because I really am obsessed with planning. I'm kind of a financial planner at heart, and I really like to look back at their last year, compare it to this year, tell them the differences, why this and this happened. Let's look forward to next year. How can we improve that? I'm like, that's what's fun about this job to me. So I spend a lot of time with people doing that. And then more holistic goals too, talking about their house, their family, their investments, their retirement, just calling things out for them. And so when I tell people that I'm going to do that for them and highlight that in my initial meeting, they're so excited. A lot of these, especially these people that I love working with, are like young people starting out, families, or maybe starting their own little tiny business. And when I'm like, oh, I'll help you make sure that, like, you know, you figured out your state, like, licensing with your business and this and that, and like just a wider conversation than just the 1040 prep, because that's what's fun for me anyways. They're like, oh, well, that makes sense then, that's what I was getting at this other firm was like point and sign. So, right. And then for a lot of people, they're like, oh, that's too much and I don't need all that. And then they're not right for us anyways. So that's kind of been huge for us. And I think it's given us the confidence to really price high and know that we're worth that. Mm-hmm.
Right. And if, you know, some of the leads don't want that, then that's fine.
Oh yeah. And last week, so like, I don't know how many leads per week, you know, January is a hot month for leads for 1040s, but I'd say last year it was more like we had 4 or 5 leads per week or something, through like referrals, or maybe someone found our website on Google, but we didn't have any. We had a couple of Yelp reviews, but one of the main things we've done with Tyler is build up our Google review. And now, you know, we're like high ranking in Seattle, even with just like 15 reviews. And so we last week, our highest sales week, we had like 26 leads or something. We were like, we need staff, you know, like, so to convert 40% of those, it was great.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm not too sure what I'm supposed to say after that, but going from 5 leads the same time period last year to 26 in the same time period this year, that's tremendous. And again, it's a testament to you two as individuals. You don't just get 5-star reviews. You have to genuinely care about people and deliver fantastic service. And that's what you do. But I think that the main takeaway from what we've been able to accomplish together is sometimes we take for granted how much we're doing for other people. And we don't even realize it until we take the time to say, wait a minute, let's actually sit down here and go through all the things that we're offering and doing for these people. And then take a look at this and say, wait a minute, $500 or $600, but that's barely above what H&R Block is going to charge for these people, if not maybe even below it in certain situations. And we go, wait a minute, for the amount of care and effort and expertise that we're bringing to the table, we have to better realign our expectations. And I'll bring it back to what Randy said. Every person's a project, right? Right. We have to be selective in who recognizes what we're bringing to the table and who does not. And if they don't recognize it, that's okay, right? I think Randy said this to me, or someone in the group, get to 7 no's, right? Don't worry about getting to as many yeses as you can. Get to 7 no's out of 10. That's what you got to be concerned about, is like, I want 7 people to say no to me. Because if I'm getting too many than that, I'm either not pricing correctly or something is not right. And I'm going to create problems down the road. So
that really changed my attitude, changed my heart about these interviews, to not feel like I failed when someone says no, to feel like, well, that's a success also.
And speaking of like 30% success being good, I just want to say to anyone who's listening that that's probably how much of Tyler's program we've implemented, 30%.
Right, and we're still having this amazing success.
Yeah, and so it's like his program is robust and can feel intimidating, but you can kind of pick the things that work for you, and then we're excited into this next year to keep going with the other new things and new ideas from Tyler.
I appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of people will be like, well, I want to implement 100% of them. And I go, that's fine. Like, but I don't know. I don't think you're actually ready to implement 100%. That's why you have lifetime access to the material. But the 8-week experience is meant to say, no, what do you need to focus on that's going to give you the maximum results, or the results that you really need right now? Sometimes people come and they go, oh, I need more leads. And they're working 80-hour work weeks. And I go, you don't need more. What are you talking about right now? Like, yeah, we might need to transition the way your client base looks and operates. Sure, I don't disagree with that. But there's something else structurally wrong that we need to address well before we dive into leads. And again, that's what the one-on-one is really there for. And the point is like, if you implement 30%, there's a good chance you're going to 5x or 6x your overall lead flow in the same time period from the year before. Like that's absolutely awesome that you guys were able to do that. And I appreciate you sharing that. So we're going to rapid fire questions, because I got Q&A and I got people like rolling in. We got 10 minutes left. So let's just start flinging them out here. So I'm going to skip that one. Okay. If you're willing to say, how much did you add to your firm and in what time frame?
Yeah, we have been doing this since September. And I think we have about 50 new clients. We were at around 200. We're at around 250 clients, and we are on track to increase our revenue about 50% this first year.
Congratulations.
50 new clients isn't so bad. pretty awesome.
At this point, it's not what we're hoping for our bottom line, which is a very significant increase, is we are on track for that. This is no longer just if we do this, it'll happen. Like, we are on track.
We're like a couple clients away from that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
Just
and also just the money is like a big thing, right? But also just we've, through Deva through the program and through Deva's leadership, we've revolutionized our technology, what we're using. And it's just, it's been really hard for me, to learn, but I just did it. And I think it's just making this massive difference in efficiency. Yeah.
That's awesome. Efficiency leads to, of course, the bottom line, and congratulations on the overall growth. What would you say to the people watching this and the future people who will watch this, considering our services? What would you tell them with respects to joining?
You want me to dive in, Mom? Yeah, I would just say to do it. Like, we're not rich people. And if anyone's intimidated by the investment, it's just like, please don't be. We made it back in a few weeks. My mom got the confidence to quote someone more than double what she would have. Literally, she was like, I'm going to get this client to cover our 8-week program. And like had like a sassy attitude about it, and then did it. And it was hilarious. And, our numbers, I think when we first joined, we were intimidated by, we were looking at some of our peers, like, do they have $1 million firm, or what are they doing? And like, are you comfortable with me sharing our revenue, Mom?
Yeah.
Like, our revenue in 2020 was around 190,000. And we're a partnership. We didn't have any employees. That was our gross. And then now we're on track to have it be more like 300,000 in 2021 is what we're hoping. So
Yeah, so it's so worth it.
Yeah, that's
yeah, we would have just had a little normal organic small growth, I think, otherwise.
well, 100% belongs to you for taking action and following the program. Like, that's amazing to hear. Unbelievable growth. And I would say, what has surprised you the most about growing your business so far?
I want to give her a chance to talk if she wants.
No, you go. I have to think about that question.
What surprised me the most? I think that I'm having this big identity shift, which I'm really enjoying, because I don't know, maybe a lot of people out there are like accountants at heart, but like I wasn't really I'm not really, I'm other things. I'm this other person, and my identity saying like I'm a tax accountant was actually a little weird for me. But now I'm like, ooh, I'm doing like strategy and like financial coaching and like more holistic work with my clients, and I'm finding my own niche and my own sense of identity, because I'm allowing myself to not just be a tax accountant, taking on a bigger, more meaningful role than that.
Right, yeah. And I think the thing that surprised me the most is that we actually can and are making this big financial jump. That with, as Deba said, we're implementing a lot of your program, but we're not doing 100% of it. And just the things that we have done has created this big response. That surprises me.
That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And just to clarify, it sounds like, I'm not sure if you've billed and collected the difference that you shared with us earlier, Deva, in terms of revenue, but you already have won a Dream Firm award, 6 figures in less than 365 days, or you're right on track. So I'm not sure which it is, but
we'll have to tell you at the end of tax. These are, because a lot of them are quotes for tax season, but we do charge up front. So hopefully we can tell you soon. But I think it'll probably be more like this spring or summer that we'll be telling you that.
Right.
I can't wait to hear about that. Okay, I've got Q&A. I'm going to fly through these. I've got one from Jennifer says, oh my God, you two are adorable and so amazing. Thank you for sharing your stories. Very inspirational. Love it. Thank you for tuning in, Jennifer. Anthony says, you said you charge how much for taxes? My clients scream over a $50 increase. And Anthony, just to recap, it is specific to the person's situation, but ultimately they have a well-defined value ladder that is twice what they typically were charging, and much up and above that. I mean, they literally picked up one client that paid for the entire investment of the program, and Randy brought the SaaS to that. So that's awesome. I've got one from Evelyn. Wow, never realized how I'm not quite seeing my value the way I need to. This was eye-opening. Quick question, Randy. Do you ever feel that male colleagues or clients still struggle with seeing you the way you see yourself? Thanks again.
I don't feel that way, but it might be, I tend to attract or take in the kind of clients that I'm comfortable with. And so it might be that I'm, creating my reality in that way, and not involving myself with the kind of client or the kind of men that would have those attitudes or the arrogance. So I'm good right now.
And I think to answer the guy who said about the $50 increase, clients are freaking out. I think coming to a way to express like, we have a minimum project fee and this is all the stuff we give. And that's totally not right for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Able to say that in a positive way. Like I tell many people per week, I hear from many people a week, like, oh, that's way too much or more than I was expecting. And that's great. And we have some cool colleagues that we can refer them to that are more just going to turn around their tax return. So.
And I'll summarize that as your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Like the way that you guys present yourself and the way that you've structured how you handle your conversations, it will repel people that don't understand why it's more and it will attract people who love what you've got going on, your personality types, and everything your firm represents. Kenesha says, I completely resonate with all of this. What's up, Kenesha? Great to hear that. Angelina says, my daughter needs to watch this with me. LOL. Will it be recorded? 100% Angelina. We'll drop it on the YouTube channel later. Robert says, very interesting niche selection. Might have missed it, but what got you started in this category? What made you decide to target it exclusively? Robert, just to summarize, Randy had a mentor that essentially realized that this was going to continue to be an increasingly important sector of the market, stock compensation, and essentially dropped this weird thing, I think it's called paper, on her desk and said, go through this and master it. And sure enough, that's where we are today with that mastery. And she's passing that torch on to Deva. Joe said, Deva, you mentioned you do financial coaching. That's something I want to get more into with my clients. How did you get your first client with that?
Yeah, I was really nervous to do it, but I started helping friends, giving advice to tax clients that I wasn't charging for as well. I'm just really interested in personal finance. I listen to a lot of podcasts, read blogs. I had a lot of knowledge. I offered to a few friends what I called a pilot group, and I created like a 4-session program where we went through and did a little mini Tyler type program, 4 sessions for them to create a plan. And I didn't charge them. I said, what I'm doing here is you guys are going to give me extensive feedback. I made a really long survey, and it was, I spent 4 or 5 hours with each person that did it, and did it for free for, I think, 5 or 6 people. And then I had so much feedback and a lot of positive feedback. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to charge for it. And I've increased my rates since then. And I'm not a certified financial planner, and I make that clear to people. But there's a lot of advice you can still give to help people.
I love it. Just to summarize, loved it so much, willing to do it for free, collect that feedback, understand the value that she was bringing, and now is bringing that to market. So again, I'd say put together your beta program, and then let that beta program tell you what they love, don't love, bring it to market thereafter. That'll give you a heck of a lot more confidence. Kathy says, wow, you two need to do your own podcast. Maybe you do already. Do you have one? I totally tune in. I don't think so quite yet, Kathy, but I'll make sure that when they do start one, you are kept in the loop. Laura, awesome interview as usual. Keep up the great work. Alan, do you get pushback on the fees you're asking for on TaxWorks? Seems like a pipe dream to me. Alan, well, you can make your dream firm a reality. Dreamfirms.com/now, link down below. We can help you make sure that you get over that hump in the not so distant future. Yes, they get pushback, but pushback is natural. Ethan, do you deal with the feast or famine side of doing primarily tax work? Do you offset it with other services in the off season? Ethan, just from a time sake perspective, they're primarily a tax shop, but Deva is exploring more of the financial coaching side to help offset a little bit of that particular seasonality in the business cycle. Sharon, wow, this gives me hope. My daughter and I can have a relationship like this one day. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, Sharon. It is definitely possible. They have inspired hope in me as well. I've got one from Alfred. Is this the same thing as the Igniter program, Alfred? No, this is not the same thing as the Igniter program. Completely different. This is a larger investment, but also more resources and more support from us, like literally 100 times more. Danielle, all right, book my call. Let's go build my dream firm. Tyler, what's up, Danielle? Way to go. Amy says, tax season is killing me, but I want to do this so badly. What do you suggest, ladies or Tyler? Amy, I'll say what I said earlier in the call, which is that there are priorities in your life, and we need to be willing to make trades. If growth is a priority, let's get you started. And we're not going to pressure you one way or the other, but ultimately we hope to help you along the way. So Devin, Randy, I know we've got to run, but do you have any parting shots very quickly here?
I just want to say one of our friends in our 8-week program and in our extended program with Tyler now started during last tax season, which, probably feels intimidating to people, but she's so happy she started in the middle of tax. She was like going through it. And so this is just going to be a lot of help.
Randy, anything else?
I just want to say that working with Deva is like the best thing. And I really appreciate her and our relationship. And I think that it comes through to clients and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, about the structure of our company. And not everybody, can have a mother-daughter or, family thing like that. But I think what I take from that is that people really like to know that there's a team that cares about each other and that is working towards for them.
Yeah, it's actually kind of turned into a marketing tool for us. Our story that we're this mother-daughter team in this day and age where everything's so like digital and not personal. People love that we have that.
Mhm. Yeah.
What a fantastic note to end on. I just want to say thank you both so much for taking the time to share your relationship and bond with us and our audience. You guys are the definition of one of my dream clients. You guys are just so awesome to work with. And I'm glad to know that you are either in possession or will possess your dream firm. So with that being said, thank you so much. If you have additional questions, drop them down below. More importantly, dreamfirms.com/now. Get on the same path as Randy and Deva. Get yourself accelerated. Remember, only you can make your dream firm a reality, but we are here to help you every step of the way by being proactive. Have a great rest of your work week, everyone.